I'm Lior Phillips, host of This Must Be the Gig. We're a weekly podcast that documents everything about the world of live music, speaking with choreographers, costume and set designers, the people who run beloved venues and festivals, and, of course, speaking with musicians about that one gig that changed their lives. Get your peek behind the curtain at consequenceofsound.net, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Consequence Podcast Network.
Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence of Sound and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thank you so much for making your way here, checking out this series. Hopefully you like what you hear enough to subscribe. You can find us at anywhere you get podcasts from. That does include iTunes and Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Acast, and YouTube, where you can usually find the video versions of these interviews as well. We put out 3 brand new interviews every single week, so it's a great way to keep up with all of your favorite artists, discover some new ones, and know what's happening in the music world. I'm Kyle Meredith, and today, my guest, Martin Gore of Depeche Mode, one of my all-time favorite bands. He's got a brand new solo release out called The Third Chimpanzee. We're going to talk about this theme of bridging primates to humans, and as it's an instrumental record, having these non-lyrical songs speak for something. Of course, you don't have to think too hard to find a thread about what's been happening over the last 4 years and the panic that and anxiety that a lot of people have had as to what he's talking about with the difference in primates and humans. But beyond these big heady themes, we're also I want to ask him about being on the forefront of electronic music and his thoughts on AI songwriters. And along that line, Depeche Mode recently made soundwave art of their songs. So we'll get the details on that, as well as the remixes that are on the way from this set. So let's get into it, talking about The Third Chimpanzee. It's Kyle Meredith with Martin Gore.
Hi, Kyle.
It's a pleasure to talk to you today. I should throw out the compliments right away. The Third Chimpanzee, it's beautiful, it's scary, it's hypnotic, and all in just a few songs. Congratulations on this.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, it's been it was a fun use of my time during this lockdown. Well,
no, it's got an interesting kind of concept, and I thought we'd actually just start there, because this is an instrumental record, but it does sort of have a theme going to it, right?
Yeah, it kind of gradually evolved that theme, because I recorded Howler first, and that was even before the pandemic hit. So I already had a demo finished of that, and it had some vocals that I recorded on it that I manipulated and re-synthesized, and they came back sounding, more like a monkey to me than a human. So I decided to call that track Howler and didn't think much more of it. But then when we went into lockdown and was stuck at home all the time, and I didn't feel particularly creative lyrically, I thought maybe it would be fun to actually record some instrumentals. I always feel like I can write music much easier than I can lyrics, especially when you don't have much going on. So the second track I worked on was Mandrill. And after I'd recorded a few parts, I actually thought, maybe it would be interesting to carry on this concept of recording kind of vocal parts for each track and manipulating them. So I did that again, and then decided to name that after a different monkey, and did that for all of the tracks. And then when it came time to name the EP, I remembered the book that I'd read ages ago when it came out by Jared Diamond. At the time, it was called The Rise and Fall of the Third Chimpanzee, which is about humans. So I thought it would fit nicely with the concept to call it The Third Chimpanzee and kind of blur the lines between monkeys and humans. And then I had I think the stroke of genius for the whole project was remembering that monkeys can paint. And, so I had, Googled and eventually found Pockets Warhol, who's up in a sanctuary near Toronto in Canada, and, reached out to the sanctuary and told them who I was, and asked them if they thought that Pockets would be interested in doing the artwork for me.
It's so cool. I mean, just seeing that, I wasn't aware of that. I'm not surprised that we have monkeys that can paint, but seeing how that all tied together, like, there's a lot to unpack in everything you just said right there. And I'll kind of back up to the beginning here because, this starts out, again, as just an instrumental record, as you said, not really being inspired for the lyrics. Yet, here we have, songs with no words, and they ended up saying quite a lot of things. Do you go into writing songs like this, instrumentals, needing to find a way to make them speak, or do you find that happens naturally?
I don't know if that happens all the time, but I think that so much has happened over the last few years that maybe, without being explicit, I felt like I should try and say something. And, sometimes it does feel like devolution is happening.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you.
So I think that it was I think it's something that's fitting for the times.
Well, that's interesting. That I'll only touch a little bit on your other life with Depeche Mode, but that is interesting because this comes sort of the next thing after Where's the Revolution, which I know back then you guys were talking about it was a little tongue-in-cheek, but I took it as a rallying cry. I mean, it was very inspirational to me. So hearing that you'd kind of, in this interesting way, again, using something that has no words to say, sort of, like we read between the lines. None of us are stupid. We know what's happening in the world. It's, I mean, that's, that feels natural, I guess.
Yeah, it does. I mean, the last album was, kind of political. Quite a few of the tracks were, similar sort of theme, really, going backwards. I felt like, even though I wasn't writing lyrics, I should try and say something. When
you have a song like this, like a lot of your stuff, whether the lyrics are there or not, ends up being sort of cinematic. Like it's easy to conjure up some, this would be a great score to a sci-fi movie in a way. Do you see pictures or movies when you're writing stuff like this?
It's funny. I was just talking to somebody today about this, and they were saying that it does sound like a sci-fi movie, but at this moment in time, it feels like we're actually living through a nightmarish sci-fi film anyway. So maybe that's what I'm tapped into.
But even with the book, with the Rise and Fall of the Third Chimpanzee, I've never read the book, and I don't quite know what it is. It does feel like it can start speaking a little bit in that sort of genre, just from what I'm gathering. I like, is that at least a genre? I'm talking about sci-fi that you've been into, because even in the Depeche Mode stuff, like, it works for that. Well, I was actually wondering if it was kind of a cyclical relationship in that way.
Well, the Rise and Fall of the Third Chimpanzee isn't sci-fi. It's a scientific book. But no, I think that, even if you go back to my last album that I put out, MG, I think that was quite cinematic as well. I mean, I think when you're writing instrumentals, maybe it's, you've got to capture an atmosphere, really, especially if there are no words. I think there's got to be something about them that kind of like grabs the listener. And maybe the easiest way to do that is by kind of giving them a cinematic quality.
Like, I can enjoy the adventure of these songs even without knowing exactly what you meant for them, which has got to be what I guess a lot of songwriters, hope for, that personal connection that the listener kind of carries away.
Yes, yeah, that's a connection. I've always said that. That's the main thing you hope for as a songwriter. You need to connect with an audience. Somebody has to feel something. It doesn't necessarily have to be exactly what you felt when you wrote it, but they should feel something.
Well, again, it feels like a perfect little piece for the moments. The news is on my TV most of the day, as I'm watching everything unfold, and this does seem like some sort of weird soundtrack that, does go along with it. And I'll only hit a little bit more on the chimpanzee thing because, the Rise and Fall of the Third Chimpanzee, I know that's more supposed to be, the human side of things, but I also think of the three monkeys, see no evil, speak no evil, or hear no evil. I think the last one is speak no evil. Yeah. And that was, to me, it's like, is there any relationship with that right there? Because the third chimpanzee in that scenario ends up being this sort of speak no evil, and there's no speaking on the record. Maybe I'm making a coincidence.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that deeply, really. But it's like you were just saying about having the TV on in the background constantly. That's modern life, isn't it? It's like I had to switch my alerts off. During the 4 years of Trump, I was living in a constant state of panic. Because my alerts were going off like at least every half an hour to an hour, and I was oh God, what has he done now? So or at least tomorrow is the inauguration of Joe Biden, and Trump stopped saying that he's won the election because that's such a dangerous thing to keep saying, and let's hope his supporters acknowledge Biden is the president.
Tomorrow feels like Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve all wrapped into one, honestly. That's how I'm looking at it anyway, so I agree with you.
Yes, yeah. But with a little bit of a very scary Halloween mixed in, though.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Because we just don't know. After the Capitol building, who knows what's going to happen?
We don't know. You're right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll draw that back to this music. You were on the forefront, really, of electronic music from the very beginning. It seems like, right from at least the popularity of I don't know if you'd say the genre, but right there at the beginning. Today, of course, we have computers that can do it all. Although, luckily, I think sometimes it's nice that people don't seem to have a lot of interest in that. Is that something you anticipated from the early days, that this is what could happen with computerized music?
To be honest, no. Obviously we saw electronic music as a way forward and an important way forward for music. It felt like, rock, as we knew it at the time, was coming to its conclusion, and it needed to go somewhere. Music needed to go somewhere. And there's no way I think we could have predicted how ubiquitous electronic music is now, and how easy it is to make electronic music now. And I think it's a blessing and a curse, really. I think it's a blessing that anybody who wants to can get their ideas down and make something in their bedrooms reasonably cheaply. I think that's amazing and great. And at the same time, it's a curse because there's just so much horrible music being made. There's some great music being made, but if you put tools in the hands of everybody, some of it won't be so good. But I think I'll look at it as a blessing in general.
I've quoted this before in other interviews, and I know we've never talked about that makes me think of this thing that I think it was Tom Petty. I credit it to Tom Petty anyway, because back in the day before everyone could just record all at once, you really had to hone the song. You had to work on it and workshop it until it was finally ready for a studio, because that was so rare to be able to get into that. So, I agree with what you're saying there, because I think that part of the songwriting art has been lost. There's a lot of first thought, best thought, and then it's out in the world, out of your hands before it can ever be worked on, in that sense.
Yes. But then at the same time, people can do have the time in their bedrooms to hone the songs. If you want to, you can work on it for a year. You can work on one song for a year if you want, and it doesn't really cost you very much. There's both sides to this.
Well, when you're making that type of music, and you've never had a problem with this, by the way, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but how do you find a way to capture the soul of something that, conceptually, ideally might be cold at the beginning?
Oh, that's a tough question. I think it's something that I don't know. I think somewhere that you're inherently aware of or something. I don't know. I think that, I've been a massive fan of music since I was 10 years old. And I think, when you just listen to that much music across all kinds of genres, it's not like I only listen to electronic music. I listen to absolutely everything. I used to be fascinated by gospel music growing up. I used to be fascinated by doo-wop. I used to be, fascinated by blues music and rock music, everything, music from the 20s, music from the 30s. And I think that all goes in, and it goes into a blender in your head, and somehow I think it comes out, and it hopefully will be interesting when it comes out, because you've put a lot of learning into what you feel is good that goes into the blender.
Luckily, it's always come out. I mean, you've written so many classics throughout the years, and you're still finding new things to do with them. I mean, since we're sort of on this AI subject, what was I reading about Soundwave's art of Depeche Mode songs?
Yeah, there's an artist. I can't remember where he's from. I think he might be in Austin or somewhere. And he's done some soundwave art, and it was for a friend of mine, really, who runs a charity called Notes for Notes, and they have studios around the country. I think they've got like 25 or so now in different cities around America, and they provide tuition and studios for anyone for free, who wants to go in and learn, for kids, not for adults, for kids, and so. Yeah, the soundwave art was for that, really. I just signed a bunch of it, and the band has signed a bunch of it before as well, and they sell it for charity.
Yeah, such a cool way to, a three-dimensional version of the song, I guess. It's that stuff's really, really interesting, what you all have been doing. And it's interesting how we're talking about the contradiction of that, and then the artwork for this one, as you said, which actually has a monkey painting it. It's so, I guess, the two sides of that coin.
Yeah, well, what you mean, one being so kind of like technological and the other one so primitive in a way, kind of.
Right. It's just interesting that they kind of arrive at the same time.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think that the artwork for this looks amazing. Mm-hmm. I mean, I saw the vinyl for the first time a few days ago, and it just looks amazing on vinyl. Yeah, I think the whole package looks really good, actually.
No, for the pictures
very
I've seen.
Pleased with it.
Yeah. I'll wrap up. You, of course, have a long tradition of the remixes. Are there going to be other versions of these Chimpanzee tracks right here? Are we going to get remix versions of these too?
Yeah, we asked 10 different people to do remixes, because usually you ask for more remixes than you need, expecting that some of them you might reject because they're not as they didn't turn out the way you expected, and they all came back and they're all really good, and I think they're outstanding. So at some point, I don't know exactly how we're going to do it. I think some of them will definitely be released digitally first, but at some point I think they'll definitely be coming out on CD and vinyl as well.
Anybody that you can say who did it yet, or is that still under wraps?
I think it should still be under wraps at this point, because I don't know exactly when the first tracks are going to hit, digitally even. So, yeah, maybe a bit early.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I certainly do enjoy the music that you're doing, Martin, and with your solo stuff with Depeche Mode. I was listening to Dream On the other day. It's one of my all-time favorite songs. I mean, you continue to amaze me, in the past and in the present. I can't wait to hear what's next. Thank you so much for all that you've done.
Oh, all right. Thank you very much. Thanks.
And we'll see you around. Thank you so much for the conversation.
Yes, we'll see you in the real world soon.
All right, take care. Bye.
See you, thanks.
Now, since Martin and I kind of referenced the last Depeche Mode record called Spirit, I'm going to include here as a bonus interview me talking with Andrew Fletcher of Depeche Mode. It was that album that we were talking about, Spirit, and its political leanings. We also got to discuss some of the stories behind No More and Scum, and the lead single, Where's the Revolution, as well as the preparations for that tour that was happening. So part 2 of Kyle Meredith with Depeche Mode.
Hi, Kyle.
How are you, Andy?
Yeah, good, thanks.
It's a really big honor to talk to you. I've been a fan for a long time, and I really love this new record, Spirit.
Thank you.
You guys have outdone yourself once again, and at this point in the game, that is always impressive.
We try our hardest. Yeah.
And let's start with the obvious things. I know what everyone's saying about this record, with it being sort of, the political side of things, even though I know it wasn't completely written with that in mind. But given the content, did you all know what you were going to be, singing about, talking about, relating about when you went into the sessions in the first place?
Yeah, I think we thought that the political situation was pretty bad. But then, of course, we didn't know what was coming. So we've released this record now, and you've got Brexit in Britain, you've got Trump as president. The situation politically is much worse, really, than when we were writing the album.
Do the songs change for you after the election, the way it went? Because obviously, when we heard it as fans, that's the first things that we thought of, even though these songs were written long before that. Did they change for you as well?
No, they didn't. I mean, to be fair, Trump had just announced his candidacy when Martin was writing, although he never thought that Trump would actually win it. We've done an album like this before, our third album, Construction Time Again. And, we write songs in general about politics, but we usually use analogies like sex or religion, to get the message across, when this is a lot more direct.
I mean, especially, the first time I heard of it, you hear a song like Scum, and, it's like there is no hiding what we're talking about here, and geez, you can just go down most of the track list and you don't even have to hear the song, just looking at the lyrics themselves. I mean, it is your most direct album that I can recall ever, which is
it's good that, when we're sort of in our 50s, when we should be relaxing, and we've always written songs about the world we live in. And like I say, this is a bit more direct. It's pretty much carries on from what we've been doing all our career.
With David and Martin living in the U.S., you're still in England, right?
Yeah.
So they're seeing it from the American side, and you're seeing it from, I guess, the Brexit side and the Britain side. And
well, they
America
were very angry about Brexit as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure, and I was too, and I've never been there.
Yeah. I mean, it's... yes, Dave is much more political in America than he was in England, and Martin as well, I think, is definitely more political than he was in England. Brexit, if you remember that it was virtually a 50% vote,
mm-hmm.
It's crazy that a major constitutional change should be made, by 100,000 votes,
I do get it though. With art, I would feel, and I haven't been a musician for a while now, it seems like you need a stone to push against. And while none of us would wish this would happen on the world, it seems like it does allow for you guys to push up against something to get the best art. And maybe your producer, I know, working with James Ford, did he offer some of that too, giving you a bit of a challenge?
Well, James and myself were slightly worried in the beginning with the song content, the political aspects.
Mm-hmm.
But, as we recorded, the situation was evolving all the time. So we swung round to actually thinking, this is the right way to go.
Yeah. What were your concerns?
Well, when sometimes you get bands that are political bands, you've got to be very careful that you're not stung. I think why we can get around it is because it's not as if every one of our albums is like this, So it's a real surprise.
It's also nice how it's worded, because it's almost like a question with a lot of these things, a challenge even. It's not that you guys are so much planting the flag down, although, again, I'll reference Scum maybe as a time you are, but a lot of, like, where's the revolution, Like, I understand, like, that's...
I mean, it's a bit tongue-in-cheek. I mean, we don't expect a revolution. It's just a bit of tongue-in-cheek.
Other songs on here, too, like No More, one of my favorites from the record, really feels like it has that classic Depeche Mode sound.
That is the more classic Depeche Mode on that track.
How did that one come about, and is there any story behind it for yourself, too?
Not really. It's one of Dave's songs. He came in with a few demos, and that was changed quite a lot from his original demo. And his two other songs on the album, Poison, was just the same as the demo, really.
Mm-hmm.
But Cover Me, that really changed a lot. That's one of my favorite songs on the album.
I was actually going to ask if there were any real standout moments from the sessions for you.
I really like Scum. It's the weirdest rhythm. In fact, we're not playing it live because we're not sure if it can be played live.
It's a shame.
It's some weird beat.
Speaking of the tour, what are the preparations like for this tour? I mean, what are the plans going like?
We don't know what. Next week when we go to Stockholm, we'll actually see the set for the first time and see all the films that Anton Corbijn has been making. we put 100% trust in him.
Wow, that is a lot of trust.
So it's going to be like the unveiling. I always tell a similar story one of our earlier tours when we were doing our production rehearsals in Pensacola. And when we walked in, all the lights were on, and our stage set looked like Stonehenge in Spinal Tap.
Let's hope the rest of that doesn't play.
There's always that fear when we walk in next week into the venue in Stockholm that we will get the same shock.
Hopefully it doesn't play out like the rest of that movie. What about yourself personally? I mean, you've been touring most of your life at this point, but I know as you get older, it changes the preparations. Do you have to go through any rigorous workouts, campaigns for yourself?
Well, funny you should say that. I've lost about 30-odd pounds, and I didn't do that for the tour. I just started walking every morning for about 4 or 5 miles, so I'm in pretty good shape.
Wow. Congratulations.
The other guys are very fit as well.
Yeah, that's a pretty nice place to be right there.
But, as you get older, traveling around does become a bit harder. The concerts are fine. So you really have to be. In the days when we used to party all the time, you couldn't do that now and give 100% performance.
So thank goodness you've got to jump on it as it goes. Well, again, I seriously love this record. It is up there, probably a top 5 Depeche Mode record for me. I love that you guys are doing it. Not every band is able to pull this off. What do they say? Art, you get 10 good years in art, and you guys have far exceeded that. So
yeah, it's a complete dream come true for us. We only expected to be around for a few years, and here we are now, still making good music. We've got lots of fans out there waiting for us. It's a great feeling.
Well, I'm appreciative of it as well. And I'll say in closing, apropos to none of that, once a year, I love to go to YouTube and watch the TV performance of Just Can't Get Enough when you all were just kids. And it makes me so happy every time I see that.
Can I just point out that in those videos just started, and no one really knew what to do with them. And we were only about 18 or 19 at the time.
Oh, you can tell. I mean, you look 14 and 15. So
yeah. That's one of the better ones, early ones.
Oh, it really is a joy to watch. It really is.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. I appreciate the call. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And again, my thanks to Martin Gore. The brand new record is called The Third Chimpanzee. Big thanks to you as well for checking out this series. Before you get out, please do hit that subscribe button so you can keep up with all of the interviews that we put out every single week. Again, it's 3 brand new ones every week, so great way to keep up with all of your favorite artists. Subscribe at Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcast, at YouTube, Acast, or wherever you like to get your podcasts from. Then after that, head over to WFPK.org, where I do a show Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. It's song premieres, music news, anniversary spins, and bonus interviews. Again, Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern at WFPK.org. Consequence of Sound has your music and film news. You can also find me on the social media spots, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of them at Kyle Meredith. I do hope you like and follow along there as well. That does it for another edition. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.
Consequence Podcast Network.
It's easy to hear your favorite artist on WFPK from wherever you are. Listen on your smart speaker, live stream from our website at WFPK.org from Louisville Public Media.